Today is World Hypertension Day. It aims at creating awareness and educating the public about the dangers of this disease. In South Africa, at least 50% of adults are not aware that they have the illness. Joining us now is Professor Pamela Naidoo, CEO of the Heart and Stroke Foundation. Prof, good to have you, and thank you very much for your time. What are some of the alarming trends that you're picking up, particularly in South Africa, in 2025, as far as this illness is concerned?
Yes, thank you so much for having me. Hypertension or raised blood pressure is really one of the key drivers of heart disease and strokes. Hence, hypertension is a very important medical condition. The trends that we are seeing, it's unfortunately been this trend for a while now, and that is, as you said, at least half of the adults in South Africa are hypertensive. The sad fact about that, though, is half of those 50% of adults don't actually know they're hypertensive. And the 50% that do know and have been diagnosed, 50% of those individuals are not adhering to the medication. So by and large, we have really a large proportion of people who have what we call uncontrolled hypertension, which is very dangerous for one's health.
Because the condition remains symptomless, what are the ways of picking up that you are hypertensive?
Yes, so that's an excellent point. So it is, commonly known as the silent killer, although, sometimes you will feel certain symptoms like, being tired or not being able to execute as you would do on a day-to-day basis, normal tasks. But I think that the key message would be that if you're 40 years and older, and if you have a family history of hypertension, if you're overweight or obese, if you're a smoker, if you eat badly, and if you have a combination of risk, you should actually be checking your blood pressure twice a year. And it is during those checks, it's really a numbers game. It's know your numbers. If you know what your blood pressure readings are, then you can take the necessary steps to get it to some kind of normal level. So it's very difficult. You may get headaches, but it's nothing that you can say is very classic symptomatology of hypertension. That's why it's so dangerous.
What are the other conditions, or if you like, maybe risks that are directly linked to an uncontrolled established hypertension?
Yes, so there are a couple of ways to look at this. So the unmodifiable one is our genetics. So what is it that we inherit from our family gene pool? Sometimes even though you might be on medication, but because there's such a strong genetic link, it is very difficult to control the condition. But, by and large, it is controllable. 80%, I would say, of the risk is controllable. And you can do this by cutting out tobacco smoking. These are the things that drive up your blood pressure. So it's smoking excessively, lack of exercise, physical activity, poor eating habits, and that particularly excessive salt and sodium consumption, adding too much salt to one's food. And just those things cumulatively will lead you to get worsened levels of hypertensive disorder.
It's a numbers game, you say. So what are the numbers that you need to watch, and how regularly should you watch them?
Yes, so as I said, if you're 40 years and older and you have some degree of risk, you're going to check this twice a year. When you get to a healthcare practitioner, even if it's a good nurse, you shouldn't have one reading. So even at home, don't just do one reading and think, well, this is either too low or it's normal or it's too high. You need to take an average of 3 readings after your food has digested and you're in a bit more of a relaxed state. And you take 3 readings, and your normal levels should be between 120 to 130, which is the top number, is the systolic pressure, and the bottom number, which is 90, which is the diastolic. So if you are between 120 to 130 over 80 to 90, you're good. The moment you start to exceed 135 and the top number, your systolic pressure, and you're approaching 140, that's a danger zone, So yeah, those are the numbers you need to look out for. One of the things that I hadn't mentioned is that we underestimate our mental health, what the role mental health plays in raising your blood pressure. So if you're exposed to daily stresses, the cumulative stress is also really bad for you.
Prof, and this particular day, I mean, what do you seek to highlight around the observation of this day?
I think what we're seeking to highlight is obviously the scope and the extent of the medical condition, and it's to encourage adults in particular to check their blood pressure, and to also make parents aware that younger people are also having hypertensive disorders, and that's normally not because it's familial, it's because they're eating badly. So if you can control your salt intake, take that salt shaker off the table. When you go to buy your food in a restaurant, there's no, people eat, they add the salt before they even taste the food. So if those small behavioral changes can be applied, it will go a long way.
Prof, we appreciate your time and thank you very much for coming on. That is Professor Pamela Naidoo there on World Hypertension Day. Right, let's take a break. We'll continue with what's making news in a moment here on the Newsfeed PM.